Welcome to
Yeah.
another episode of Voices That Matter with Enlinature. I am Tina Khan, your host. And today we are going to be exploring something that's quietly shaping our real life: the disconnect. Why do we forget about the planet we live on? Before we dive deeper into our topic, I'm joined by Michael Oluwaferanmi-Adefoye, who is an environmental toxicologist, climate activist, and sustainability advocate. People are aware of the environmental problems. There is a lot of urgency. But why is there a lot of misconceptions? And why do you think that these environmental problems are often being overlooked?
All right. Thank you so much for having me on this episode. Sinat, yeah, if I get you right. Thank you so much for having me. It's a very wonderful privilege, and yes, I do not take it for granted. Yes, straight to your question. You say, why do we think environmental problems are often overlooked in our daily life? I tend to look at it in different dimensions, but I would like to state it out. One major thing is that there's a lack of awareness and connection. When I say lack of awareness, I mean there is not this education system that can sustain that people knows about what we are facing with the environmental changes. Let's look at it this way, maybe venturing into environmental education, why to schools, teach them how to know more about the environment and how to manage it. These things, while we're growing up, we have no knowledge of it. Nobody was there to teach us. We don't have a syllabus that is in alignment to teaching how to effectively manage your environment, how to care for environment, how to innovate. Everyone is growing up now, tending to innovate for their own ease or for their development. That's why we term development, we say everybody just developing, but are we developing or innovating in alignment with how it's going to affect the environment? Do we think about how it's going to affect the environment? So the lack of awareness is why we have a derail in the environmental, like a lot of people are overlooking the environmental problem. They don't see a concern. They don't see a need to address it because they know nothing about it. The knowledge gap is very minute. So people know nothing about
Mhm.
it. So what they do, they can solve. So that is
Okay,
okay.
you have talked about awareness, but do you think it is more closely related to the connection? Maybe the people are not feeling that connected with the environmental problems.
Yes, I'm not that they are not feeling it, but they don't know that that is what is affecting. When we see news online
Mhm.
of maybe there's a flooding or something happens, the media just tend to say, okay, well, there's a flooding that happened or erosion or it's so heat waves happening. They don't tend to connect it that
Mhm.
the reason why this happened was because of our own action, human action. So that is why there's
Mhm.
no standard connection linking every of these environmental irregularities. We tend to have a short-term thinking. That is, we develop just for our own satisfaction. We don't have the concern of the environment, the ecosystem at heart. We don't think that when we innovate, we have to consider
Mhm.
what is the side effect of these innovations. Are these innovations going to affect the environment? Will it be something sustainable? When we say sustainable, it carries both
Mhm.
human and the
Yeah.
environment, the ecosystem, it carries us along. So
Mhm.
sustainable, but we don't tend to look at that. We don't tend to look at how does these things benefit us, and that is all. Then we innovate, and this thing brings up challenges,
Mhm.
and then it affects our daily life. You see different casualties, different things happening. Everything affects our daily life.
Now you're
Yeah,
talking about awareness that people are not aware of these issues. When we
yeah.
bring out information, with information comes facts. But along with the facts, there are a lot of misconceptions. What do you think in today's world? What is the biggest misconception that people carry regarding these environmental problems?
The biggest misconception humans get about environmental is the fact is that
Mm-hmm.
we don't tend to aside when I mentioned the earlier the first answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned how we don't tend to correlate, we don't tend to connect, we don't tend to connect the
Mm-hmm.
dots. So by not connecting the dots, we are creating a loop. And that loop is one with conception on its own. The loop is that people know nothing about it. And when you tend to address it and tell it to them, they say it is just a made up story. They'll tell you it is not true because they made up story. Give us an example. How does this thing? Have you ever seen anyone telling you or going to the hospital or the media telling you that this is the reason why this is happening to you? It's because of the change in weather patterns due to how you are managing because you don't have a tree in your house. That is why you are experiencing too much heat. They won't tell you, and that is the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So that has created a loophole, that has created a loop and a misconception that humans tend to build
Mm-hmm.
on. Yeah, by hand. Perfect. Yeah, so let me just go ahead with one more answer to your number one question. And that one I would say is the invisibility of environmental change.
Mm-hmm.
The invisibility of
Okay.
environmental change. Yeah. Unlike
Yeah.
when we
Okay.
talk about economic, yes, yeah, unlike when we talk about economic crisis, you say when there is an economic crisis in a country, every media
Yeah,
spaces
it's
tend to
quite
carry
visible.
it
Yeah.
and speak more about
Mm-hmm.
it. Yes, it's flying all over. Everybody knows about it. This is the reason why this. But when there's a challenge relating to the environment, you know, before you hear that it is being linked to the environment, they will first list casualties, number of people that went through the with the challenge, with the problem. They won't tell you the major reason if it's relating to how we handle our environment. So that is one thing
Mm-hmm.
about that one. So I'll keep it short so that we can further with other questions. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about environment on just environmental day, but on every other day. Everybody's talking about these problems, but people talk. The other person is going to listen. Sometimes they listen, but they do not acknowledge. If one person acknowledge, the other do not want to act. So you have also been a part of campaigns. How do you think that we can use these campaigns to make sure that people are actually acting on all of these promises that they make?
Yes. So how can awareness campaign make people not just listen, not just but for them to act? You mean that's your question, but
Mhm. Yeah, yes, yes.
yeah. Thank you. So number one is that let's create a space whereby humans were being told the true life story of what is happening with facts. We let
Mm-hmm.
people know what is majorly happening. You know, I term this okay, let's connect things that are happening emotionally and locally. Let's stop twisting narratives. When a disaster struck and is relating to the environment due to humans' actions, let people hear and let people voice out and say, these things happened because of anthropogenic activities and how we affect our environment. From there, people begin to see the need for them to act. They begin to see the need
Mm-hmm.
for them to act against whatever things that have been put in place. So humans don't tend to listen until they see that there's a reason, like there's a reason attached. If it is connected, you can't go to a village and tell them that there's climate change without telling them this thing is linking it to how it affects them. Let's talk about farmers. When you go to a farmer that lost a lot of produce for whole year round, and you go there and you identify the problem. The problem is this: the land has been degraded due
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
numbers of waste that is on your land. You are dropping a whole lot of waste that are not decomposing on your land, and it has affected your land. Thereby, you cannot have produce. We connect this with them. You would see that this farmer will stand up to and act against how humans deposit or drop their waste inappropriately on land. That is one thing that I'm doing currently in a community in Nigeria
Mm-hmm.
here, where we're advocating that we want to stop illegal waste, inappropriate waste dumping on farmlands because it's taking over our farmlands. So we are
Mm-hmm.
connecting the
Mm-hmm.
dots locally, and even we're trying to twist it in their emotion. We're getting them along. We're trying to tell them that this is the solution to your problem. and we are providing the solution. And then they are speaking of numbers of farmers standing up for their right and saying no, not to illegal dumping, inappropriate dumping of waste, because this waste dumping is affecting my farm and is making me lose a lot of produce all year round. So that is that one. Also, let's aside that we sensitize them, or we create a dot between their emotions and how the local effects of what the environmental
Mhm.
challenges are. We should also create a participation space for them. Definitely every human should be saying individually I may not be able to stand, but when we have create a participation space for them, there will be this joint cooperation, one-on-one voices speaking at a time, then the impact to be felt. So we create participation for every of the individuals. Thereby, they will be able to link with each other, one from one region to another region, link with each other, and in just raise one voice, just to speak and campaign
Mhm.
against a challenge that is affecting them. So when they become a part of a movement, they tend, when they're not just the only one pushing the movement. They tend to do more when they are
Mhm.
part of the movement together. Farmers, I make example of farmers. If you have more than one farmer having these challenges in the community, and we link them together and make them, lend their voice, act against it, talk against it, come out. Then from there, we are creating a participation ground. So awareness will become an habit through continuous engagement. Let's also further engaging them. That is how we can enhance participation, basically. Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us down to the heart of it, connection. When people feel connected, they care, and
Mm-hmm.
when they care, only then are they going to act.
Yes, in the
Thank
heart.
you so much, Michael, for your insight and for making us understand that we cannot combat climate change and environmental crisis through policies, but individual actions.
Actions,
I'm
yeah,
going to be
yeah.
back with you with another episode of Voices That Matter. Until then, stay connected with your planet. This is Tina Khan, and we were
Thank you for
joined by Michael.